Will gold push up back to weekly supply this week? Let's take a look in this week's Forex Forecast. All right, starting things off with the US dollar index Cot Report. The past week, the banks added 2,440 long positions, and they also added 2,511 short positions. If you do want this Cot Report spreadsheet, it is available on my Patreon. So remember, looking at the dollar here, we are reacting off of this weekly supply. That is the last zone that has been in control. Now it's all of a question, will we be able to get up to this weekly supply or not? And in my opinion, we are starting to see a little evidence on the lower time frames that we could be actually pushing down lower. So if we look at the 4-hour chart here, let's pull it up. You can clearly see we had a pretty nice 4-hour uptrend. The trend line is still technically holding as we have not seen a candle close below it. But as you can see here, we have a 4-hour supply zone above. And in my opinion, the US dollar is looking weak. There is higher time frame evidence to suggest that this could be the high in the DXY and that we could be pushing much lower. So that being said, if we do continue to push up to this 4-hour supply, this is the supply zone at 105.146 that I will be monitoring on the US dollar. So, all right, on to the forecast for the EURUSD. The past week, the banks got rid of 1,924 long positions, and they also got rid of 1,954 short positions. Now, remember, on the weekly chart, we are inside of some sort of weekly demand, and if we go down to a daily chart here, we can clearly see we are having a hard time on the euro breaking to the downside because of this daily demand. So in my opinion, if this daily demand does get removed, that is the ultimate sign that the euro will probably be continuing to fall, probably creating a daily downtrend. So we are going to have to watch this daily demand at 1.06 to see if it gets removed or if we start to respect it. And the evidence that we will need to see that the daily chart is being respected is if we come to a 4-hour chart, is something like this. We basically need to see a lower, like a peak, a valley and a peak, and the ability to draw a trend line on the 4-hour chart. Then we would have an H4 uptrend. And at that point, I would say, okay, the daily demand that is in control is being respected. We're probably heading higher on the euro. So that is what I'd be waiting for. If price does push down to this 4-hour demand and you are bullish the euro at 1.059, you could possibly look for a long trade on a day trading time frame coming off of that 4-hour demand. That is really the only potential setup I see on the euro. Now, let's say price pushes down, you are not bullish, and price breaks this demand, and we're left with 4-hour supply. Well, like I said, at that point, we are probably headed lower on the euro, and you could potentially look for shorts at that 4-hour supply zone, which I'll have on my charts for the YouTube Patreon members. So that is what I'd be waiting for on the euro. My whole trading decision is going to be based around that 4-hour demand and the 4-hour chart to see if we create a 4-hour uptrend or if we break that 4-hour demand. All right, onto the forecast for gold. The past week, the banks got rid of 13,113 longs, and they added 8,600 short positions. Now, remember, in last week's forecast, and for a couple forecasts now, I've been talking about this weekly demand here on gold. Now, we are reacting off the demand. I did get in long, and now the question is, will we be pushing up back to this weekly supply, possibly creating a new high and breaking this supply? I'm very interested to see your guys' opinion, so let me know in the comments down below what you think will happen. Will we push down back to this weekly demand and break it, or will we push back up to weekly supply? I am very interested to hear your guys' thoughts. So as far as gold goes now, let's take a look at the lower time frames. So as many of you guys know, I was looking for longs, and I wasn't a huge fan of this 4-hour demand zone, but I actually ended up taking a trade here. So let me break down this trade, and this is actually a zone that I did end up pointing out in last week's forecast, I believe. So that is why it's very important to mark down these zones that I will be pointing out. So as far as what I took here on this trade, basically I woke up and price was reacting off the 4-hour demand, and there was this 1-hour demand zone right here at 1810 that I was looking at, and price was right about here. And I woke up with price at the 4-hour demand on gold, and I said I wouldn't mind getting a refined entry right at this 1-hour demand with my stop below the 4-hour demand. So what I did is I put my limit order right here at this 1-hour demand that is inside of the 4-hour demand with my stop below the 4-hour demand. So obviously you can see it worked out absolutely incredible. Just looking at this 1-hour demand zone. So that was my entry at about 1811. And as far as gold goes now, not seeing really any trading setups. I guess we could be technically on a 15-minute chart, looking for potential longs, but we did get some a 15-minute zone kind of removed there, so really not a great time to be trading gold right now. The entry already kind of happened. Now there is this 4-hour demand zone right here. We could potentially look for a long off of that 4-hour demand zone. So with that being said, gold, definitely bullish on gold. I think we could easily push up to that weekly supply. It's all about, obviously the entry already happened, but maybe if we do get a pullback, we could look for longs on day trading timeframes. Remember, if you do want my daily chart analysis and daily market forecast, check out the Patreon YouTube membership. There are 4 options at this moment in time. Check them all out. I tried to price them affordably. So definitely check them out. I think it would definitely help you guys in your trading. I'd be happy to see you guys join the team, support the channel, and level up your trading with my chart analysis. So as far as gold goes, not seeing any setups right now. The setup already happened, but there is that 4-hour demand at 1834. Like I said, if we do get a pullback, we could potentially look for longs in that 4-hour demand. All right, on to USDJPY. The past week, the banks added 20,870 long positions, and they also added 15,930 short positions. I have been saying in the last couple Forex forecasts on here on YouTube that this weekly chart looks a whole lot like the DXY, where we are either going to be headed up to this weekly supply or back down to weekly demand. Especially looking at the USD yen, it looks exactly like the DXY. Now we did have this daily demand. We are currently breaking through that daily demand. So in my opinion, the USDN is looking very weak. If you look at this 4-hour chart, very beautiful 4-hour uptrend, had the 4-hour demand, reacted off of it, maybe got a little bit of a day trade confirmation long in there, but eventually we did end up blowing through. Now we are held up by this 4-hour demand. So if you are bearish the USDN, which there definitely are reasons to be, if price pushes up to this 4-hour supply at 136.63, we could look for a short off of that. Now, if price breaks this 4-hour demand and we don't push back up to this supply, then if we're left with 4-hour supply here that breaks this demand, we could look for a short trade coming off of that supply zone. Remember, I will have all of these supply zones and demand zones on the chart throughout the week for the YouTube Patreon members. So that is why you should be looking to join if you do want my zones throughout the week. So that is the demand zone I'm looking to be removed. Or if we push up to that supply, that is where we could potentially look for a short trade. And as far as longs go, I wouldn't even consider getting in long until we can remove this high and this supply, which would continue the 4-hour uptrend, which would show me that the bulls have picked this up again. But right now, the USD yen is definitely looking a little weak, and I would definitely hold off on longs and potentially look for shorts. All right, on to the GBPUSD forecast. The past week, the banks got rid of 1,656 long positions and they added 5,639 short positions. And if you guys do want to follow me more closely, check me out on Instagram at FXTelepath. You can see a lot of the accuracy of my zones as I do post more there. So definitely check out my Instagram. We'll be happy to see you guys. Give me a follow and follow me more closely. Now, as far as the pound goes now, I've been talking about this weekly demand. I said we are pushing back down to this weekly demand on the GBPUSD. Now, if we pop over to a daily chart here, we are currently seeing a move up in the pound, and that is most likely because of this daily demand, and that is why we are seeing a move up. So the ultimate signal that we are headed down to that weekly demand on the pound would be this daily demand being removed, especially since we've seen a reaction of it once, twice, 3 times, almost 4 times, 4 times for sure, almost 5 times. We've seen a reaction of it quite a bit now, so that's why I want to see that removed first before we just, hop in short down to that weekly supply. Even on the 4-hour chart, we had a very clean 4-hour downtrend. Shorts were certainly okay, but now we are left. We are actually reacting off of this trend line. So we have to see what's going to happen around this trend line. If we continue to break down, we break this little 4-hour structure here, then I think we're probably headed lower on the pound. We're just going to have to keep an eye out. But as far as trading the pound goes now, really not seeing any quality zones. There is a couple little 1-hour demand zones here on the 1-hour chart, but really not loving it. So on the pound, we're just going to have to see what happens around that 4-hour trend line to see if it breaks or if it continues to push down. All right, on to the forecast for the USDCAD. The past week, the banks got rid of 6,961 long positions, and they also got rid of 11,400 short positions. Now, the USDCAD has been looking very, very strong recently. On the 1-hour chart, the bottom right screen, we did lose momentum here, but if you look at the 4-hour chart, we are currently trending up. So I would actually ignore the 1-hour chart and I would be focused on this 4-hour uptrend. We had a 4-hour uptrend, 4-hour demand zone right here, and what a reaction off this 4-hour demand so far. So the USDCAD, no signs of slowing down. The sign of it slowing down and starting to reverse would be the removal of this this 4-hour demand, because that would prove to us that the 4-hour uptrend is now sideways, which could be evidence that price could be pushing down lower. Now, if that happens on USDCAD, where is price pulling back into? Well, it's very obviously, in my opinion, pulling back to this daily demand at 1.36. So if we do remove that 4-hour demand, that would be the first step of evidence that we would need to suggest that the USDCAD is going to pull back to 1.36 at this daily demand. The second thing of evidence would be if not only we remove the 4-hour demand, but we also have a 4-hour downtrend, which would then prove to us that we are most likely headed down to that daily demand. So that's what I'd be waiting for in USDCAD. But until that happens, I would just be continuing to be a bull on USDCAD. Now, we could have been looking for longs coming off of this 4-hour demand, and you still could on a 15-minute chart. I think that's fine. As far as trading goes now, that's all I would be doing. If we get new 4-hour demand zones or 1-hour demand zones formed along the way, we could look for longs inside of that demand zone as well. There is this 1-hour demand at 1.38. Yeah, we could maybe look for a day trade long coming off of that 1-hour demand zone in USDCAD. So as far as USDCAD goes, I am bullish as long as we can keep this 4-hour uptrend and as long as the demand zones are being respected. All right, on to the Aussie US dollar forecast. The past week, the banks added 8,448 long positions, and they also added 5,131 short positions. Now, very similar to the pound, there is evidence that we are pushing down to weekly demand at 0.64. And even the 4-hour chart, we still have a very significant downward trend. There are a few options for trading here. There is this 1-hour supply zone right here at 0.66. We could look for a short off of that. And if we break that supply, we could look for a short off the 1-hour supply a little bit above. And if we do end up breaking through both of those supply zones, well, good news, because we have actually a pretty decent little daily supply at 0.67, where we could look for a potential short off of that. So really, those are the 3 zones I see on the Aussie US dollar, and I wouldn't really be looking for longs until we can see a significant change in trend on the 4-hour chart. So that is why I would just be focused on those zones for potentially shorting down to weekly demand, where we will look to take profit at 0.649. USDCHF, the past week the banks added 343 long positions, and they also added 191 short positions. We reacted perfectly off of this daily supply that I pointed out a couple forecasts ago as well. Not a zone I wanted to be shorting from since it was tested, but at the end of the day, we did see a reaction, and we are clearly headed down to this daily demand at 0.91, where we could see a move up. So any shorts, I would be looking to take profits at 0.91 before that daily area of demand. As far as trading the USD Swiss goes now, we already had a trade off of this 4-hour supply zone. Definitely, I would not have been trading off that supply zone. And one thing I take pride in my channel is I'm not just going to say, oh yeah, I would have moved off of supply. I 100% would have taken that. I wouldn't have taken this trade, even though, yeah, it was like a 10-to-1 trade or whatever. I wouldn't have taken it. So as far as trading it goes now, we do have a 4-hour supply zone at 0.92. We could look for a trade off of that 4-hour supply. I think that would be okay based on what I'm seeing. And remember, I would look to take profits at that daily demand. And as far as longs go, I'm not really seeing a whole lot. I would either have to wait for that daily demand to be contacted or for the 4-hour to shift the momentum. So to summarize, we have 4-hour supply at 0.92. We could look for a short off of that down to the daily demand. All right, last but not least, we are on to crude oil. The past week, the banks got rid of 9,340 short positions, and they also got rid of 4,860 short positions. Sorry, I meant they got rid of 9,340 long positions. Anyways, on to oil here. We have profit margin up to weekly supply. That is very important. So that's why I am bullish on oil. Now, we have lost a little bit of momentum. We did react beautifully off of my daily demand zone, but we are currently pulling back possibly for a second test. So we could maybe look for longs again in there, but I'm really not loving that. Really not liking what I'm seeing here on oil. So what I'm going to be doing, there are 2 options for longs. The aggressive option would be to see what happens around this 1-hour trend line. If we do break above and we're left with 1-hour demand, you could potentially look for longs coming off of that 1-hour demand zone. What I'm going to be doing is something like this. I'm not a huge fan of this 4-hour demand zone down here, so I'm not interested. I don't really want to look for longs of that daily demand again. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm waiting for this supply at 76.16 to be removed, And if we do remove that supply, I will be looking for longs in the 4-hour demand that removes that supply. Remember, I will have that zone that I'm using for my longs on my charts for the YouTube Patreon members. So I'm waiting for this supply to be removed. If that supply gets removed, that is my signal that longs are probably going to be okay on oil with clear profit margin to at least $88 a barrel. Hopefully you guys found this weekly Forex forecast helpful. If you did, make sure to let me know in the comments down below. Leave a like and check out the Patreon or YouTube membership if you need help finding your supply and demand zones. It's only $5 CAD per month. Hope to see you guys there and hope to see you in the next video.